Okay. Dear guests, please, we greatly appreciate your valuable time and kind consideration in the event today titled Agile Estimation Techniques. Narendra Shrivastava, our valued speaker today, is the CEO of Refine M, an enterprise Agile coach at IBM. He is a pioneer in Agile transformations. In the last 10 years, he has helped thousands of professionals in companies large and small to learn and implement Agile practices. In the past 4 years alone, he has trained more than 4,000 professionals at the Fortune 50 and other companies and helped them create and manage and self-managed empowered Agile teams with enhanced time-to-market capabilities. I would like to ask the person with the switched on mic to switch it off. Thank you. At the moment, I cannot see all the people who are on the list, so I cannot make it on my own, but then I'll be able to. Thank you. So how can we support our team so they improve quickly at estimating? In today's session, attendees will learn a variety of Agile estimation techniques, including affinity estimating, relative sizing, planning games, and more. After this session, we'll be able to apply estimation techniques at the product, release, and iteration levels, improve our Agile estimation skills, drive more effective estimates with our teams. Some housekeeping rules. So we'll have about 15 minutes presentation followed by a 30 minutes Q&A session. You can put your questions in the chat and Narendra can answer them either directly during the presentation, or if they don't relate to the slide, we'll ask them in the end. Close to the end of the session, I will put 2 links, one to the PDF submission form and the second one to our survey. So we would like to hear your opinion about the event and we value your feedback. Last but not least, I would like to extend our gratitude to our monthly event sponsor, SoftServe. The work of PMI Bulgaria chapter and our members are further generously supported by our sponsors Atos, Companies, Scale Focus, and Telelink. Without further ado, I would like to give the word to Narendra. Narendra, the floor is yours. Now I will stop sharing and you can take over.
Yeah, so you have to allow me sharing.
Yes. Now,
okay, good.
You can.
Yes, I can. Okay, so you should be able to see my screen, right?
Yes.
Very good, very good. Welcome everyone for this exciting session today. I'm very excited to present to the Bulgaria chapter. I think we started this conversation about maybe 4 or 5 months ago, and that's when we started, and today we are here. So I'm going to talk about Agile estimation, and to get the ball rolling, the first thing that I would like to do is to play a little game here, okay? And somebody can read the chat box. I'm not reading it, but this is what we are going to do. Everybody knows how to use the chat, okay? So what I would like you to do, I will ask you a question and you type the answer, but don't hit enter. Everybody will hit the enter at the same time, okay? So, and then we will see in the chat box, it's called as Chatterfall, okay? That's the name for this game. So the question is, what is the best thing that happened to you today? So type it, and I will say that, you know, once I say enter, then you enter. What is the best thing that happened to you today? Okay, so 3, 2, 1, press enter. Okay, lunch with wife, coming home, chapters meeting, very good. Took my kids to practice. Excellent, excellent. Learn new thing, very good, very good, very good. Okay, all right, so others may still be typing, which is fine. We have about 80 people here, so that's great. Okay, so let's move on to, this is the agenda outline. This is what I'm going to cover. We'll have some introductions and then expectation setting, and then we'll get into estimation. We'll set the context, and we'll talk about the cone of uncertainty in estimating. And then I will go take a deep dive into levels of estimation in Agile. And then we'll put together everything, how this everything works together. And at the end, we will have a quiz. And the winner of the quiz is going to get a prize, okay? So, and the questions of the quiz are going to be from this presentation. So you don't have to go anywhere. If you are focused and answer those quiz questions right, you can be the winner, okay? And then at the end, we'll have a Q&A. So little bit about me. So it was mentioned that I'm doing Agile coaching for IBM, and that was something that I finished. Now I do Agile coaching for a very big bank. Name is Wells Fargo. Many of you might have heard this name. So I have been doing Agile coaching for over 10, 15 years. And that is, I actively started it when I started my own company. RefineM is my own company that I started about 10 years ago. And since then, I have been doing lots of Agile coaching myself. And then there is a second part of me to run the company. So I am also the CEO of the company. We do project management and Agile consulting and training and all those kind of things. So I go and do trainings myself, but then I have other trainers and other consultants, other project managers, business analysts that work on different kind of projects. So we do projects, we do trainings, we do consulting. So all of that is, so part of me does Agile coaching, most of it, and then part of me does the managing the company. And before that, I spent almost 25 years in project management and Agile, delivering different kind of projects, as you see here. So my whole career has been in project management, and I like it, I love it, and that is why I have a company that does this work. Okay, all right, now move on. So I'm going to start this little interaction with you to set the context. Okay, so what we will do is we'll have 2-3 questions here. So let's go to mentee.com. If you see this on the top, mentee.com, and when you go there, you can use your cell phone or tablet or laptop or whatever. Get to that and then type that code, and this question will pop up. So answer this question on that. So what do you expect from this webinar? Why you are here today? What do you want to learn? Okay, so type it there, and it should start coming. And you should be able to type, I guess, multiple things. I believe you should be able to type multiple things. Some first time it takes a little longer, but it will become faster as we move along. And this is a fantastic tool that I use now that we are all virtual. But it works great in person also. Learn new techniques. Now the things have started coming. Okay, learning something new. Agile, learn new techniques. Very good, very good, very good, very good. Yeah, now you're typing. Now you're typing. Excellent, excellent. And one of the things this tool does is basically says, where is the highest priority? you know, you want to learn about. Agile is about you know, breaking things into smaller chunks and then prioritizing. So this tool automatically does that. So when something in the bold in the middle, so basically it tells that most of the people want to learn new techniques. You know, most of the people would like to learn the new techniques, which is wonderful, which is wonderful. So we will you will learn estimation technique. Okay, so that is what we are going to do here. Okay, so let's go back here. So a little bit more about what we do RefineM is some of the things that I do this webinar, this kind of webinars every month. Okay, sometimes I do more than one in a month, like this month. So my next webinar is through projectmanagement.com. Once a quarter, I deliver webinars through projectmanagement.com. And there also, some of you, most of you wanted to learn techniques. So that's about also a technique. How do you slice and dice user stories? How do you break larger stories into smaller stories? And if you are a PMI member, I am assuming you are because you are in the chapter, it is free for you. So utilize this opportunity for that. And then every month, I deliver webinars from my company. And also, we have developed several products, several self-paced training to serve the project managers and people in the project world. Now, there are some free knowledge sharing options here. So you can go to RefineM. There is a knowledge base tab, and there are templates, PowerPoint slides, ebooks, and things like that that you can download and use, and you get some PDUs too. And also I have a YouTube channel, RefineM YouTube channel, that have a lot of videos. You can watch the video, and if a video is like 50, 60 minutes, you get one PDU. So a lot of things are free knowledge sharing and giving back to the community. Okay, now to the next one. Why estimation is needed, or why do you estimate? So why do you estimate? What do you think? Why estimation is needed? So if you don't estimate, you know, why? Basic question. Why do you estimate, or why estimation is needed? For proper planning, to improve, to time box. Okay, planning, do planning, get an idea about the scale. Yeah, that's right. To know the effort. Yeah, very good, very good, very good, very good. Proper planning. Yeah. Scaling. Somebody said scaling to precise project. Okay. Reduce costs. Excellent. Reduce costs. Wonderful. So if you see here this word cloud, this called as word cloud. So if you see this word cloud, so planning is the key term that is coming up here. That is why you need estimation. Because you want to plan, or you need to plan, right? You are all project managers. If you are given a project, people will ask you, okay, when can you deliver this, right? And for that, you need to plan, right? So whether it is agile or waterfall, it doesn't matter. The stakeholder is going to ask you this question: when you are going to deliver this project, and what is going to be the cost. They're going to ask this question no matter what, whether you're using agile, whether you're using not agile, whatever. Reduce risk. Excellent. Yeah, that's also a second theme coming up, to reduce risk. Excellent. Yeah, that is why you need to estimate. Very good. Excellent. Very good. So how often, this is interesting, how often your estimates are close to reality? So we know that you have to estimate, you know, that we need to do planning. Excellent. But then how often your estimates are close to reality, where you know, you say planned planned time or cost and actual time and cost. Okay. Interesting. Okay. I have yet to see always accurate. There's nobody there. Always accurate. Nobody there. It still has 0. Yeah, excellent. So far, whatever you said, it tells me that it is never accurate, right? And mostly, if you see, it is less than 75% accurate. There are only 5 people telling 75 to 90. And 25 to 50%, less than 25%. Most of you are saying that it is 50 to 75% accurate. So there could be like 25 to 50% error, right? That is what most of you are saying. And that is not surprising. I don't think this should be surprising to anyone, right? Okay, let's move on. So what are the reasons now? You said, okay, it's not accurate all the times. So what are the reasons that your estimate are different from reality? Why? Some of you are very experienced project managers, right? Maybe planning projects for several years, 10, 15, 20 years, right? So, and you know why they are. Uncertainty. Okay. Uncertainty. Unexpected conditions, which is uncertainty. Change in scope. Insufficient information. Wow, you have a lot of things to to say. Okay. Unclear situation, lack of skills, complexity. Yeah. Complexity. Force measures. Yeah. Okay. Wrong input data. Scope is vague. Yeah. Right. Changing environment. Changes. I see a lot of theme towards the change environment, change scope, unexpected condition, insufficient resource deficiency or skills issue that we just talk about. Gaps. Yeah. Uncertainty, complexity. I think those are the 2 key ideas here: complexity and uncertainty. And you are absolutely right. You have a lot of experience, and this actually confirms that this is the reason. New team. Okay, newness, uncertainty, complexity. Yeah, absolutely right. So this is what. So you just told me this, right? There's uncertainty. You just told me that. So this is what I call as cone of uncertainty. So when you are at the start of the project, the uncertainty is large, right? Is big because there are a lot many things that are not known, several things that you just mentioned. Okay, but as the project unfolds, this uncertainty keeps reducing. Okay, and exact effort and time and cost when the things are done, right? Then there is no uncertainty. You're done, right? So you exactly know how much time it took, what cost it was, and all those kind of things. So remember this cone of uncertainty in estimating. And that is the key part of agile estimation. That in the beginning of the project, when we are starting the planning, we don't know much about it. But as the things unfold, we know more about it. Okay, so the estimation gets better and better and better. Okay, so keep that in mind, that when you do agile estimation, this is what happens. In waterfall, you have to provide all the estimates upfront, right? You don't have a choice. But in agile world, you have a choice. Okay, that is what I want. That's the first thing to remember. And then there are 3 levels of estimation in agile. Okay, in waterfall usually is 1 level. Maybe you have 2, like order of magnitude, and then your schedule. Your schedule is a detailed estimate. you need to know everything about the project. You need to know what is the scope. You need to know your team. You need to know who is going to work on what tasks, and everything you need to know, right? Before you can put together the schedule. But in Agile world, you don't need to, right? We remember that cone of uncertainty, and we say, okay, it is almost difficult to predict, accurate estimate. Like we talk about 50 to 75% time, it is not accurate, and so we need to. So those are the reasons. So that is why in Agile, you estimate at 3 levels. Okay, one is the what I called as roadmap level. Okay, roadmap level when you are doing product planning. So Agile planning starts with product planning. It is a iterative planning and just-in-time planning. Okay, so roadmap level when you start your project, right? Many teams don't do it, so they may not even know it, right? But you, when as a project manager, you need to know and help the Scrum Masters in the team. Scrum Masters know only about sprint, right? They may not know about this detailed roadmap and product level planning. Okay, so that's where you start your project, not start with the sprints. Okay, so you need to start the project with a product planning where you have the list down all the requirement at a high level, because you don't know the details, and build your backlog, prioritize it, and create a roadmap. But how do you do this? You need to know some estimate, some level of estimate, right? Some high level idea, and that's what is called as affinity estimating or affinity estimation. This is also called as bucket size estimation. We'll get into that. Now, when you got that done, the next level estimation are coming, that when you're trying to have releases, let's say your project has multiple releases. The releases may be every month, every 2 months, every 3 months, whatever that is, right? So you need to know how many releases are going to be there, what is going to be there in which release. So you start the release level planning, and that is when the relative sizing estimate is come, which is story point estimate, if you remember that, right? And then the third level is the very detailed level. It comes at the sprint level or iteration level, when you are ready to work, right? In the first two areas, you're not ready to work, you are still in the planning. But when you come down to the sprint level, you are ready to work. You have all the details about the requirement, which is called user stories. You have everything that you need to know, and you start working. There may be possibility that some questions may come. You may still have negotiability of the user story, right? But you know that you need you are ready to work. So those are the 3 levels, and you don't have to start with story point right away. That's what many teams do. They start right away with the story point, and then it's difficult, because when the requirements are in the beginning, they can be very large. You have to break them, right? But before you start doing that exercise, you may want to do a roadmap and product level planning. So let's get into a roadmap level estimation. So it is at a very high level, as I was talking about. The goal is to show quarter-wise, mostly quarter-wise, that what feature will get added. So a roadmap says by end of this quarter we'll have this, by end of this quarter we'll have this, or a very high-level idea about how the product is going to evolve, because the output of a project is product, service, or a result, right? So these goals are further refined into more specific targets. So a roadmap may look like this. And I don't know how many of you do actually roadmap exercise. Okay, this brings a lot of clarity. Okay, so if you see here, it's just 2 words, 2-3 words, right? Interactive shopping assistant. It seems like they have this product already had an e-commerce kind of a product, but they do not have interactive shopping assistant. Maybe people are calling them and booking orders, something like that, right? So they want to develop an interactive shopping assistant, and that's what they want to finish end of Q1. Then end of Q2, they want to do a Facebook integration, and then end of Q3, they want to develop an iPhone app, and then they develop an Android app. So this is a very high level. If you see that in the roadmap, you don't have to define what are the features that are going to be. You may have a little bit list of the things, but not a very detailed one. And that little list of things probably may look like something like this. If you want to put this on a board, so you can say, okay, for first quarter, these are the 3 things we are going to do in quarter. These are the 3 things we are, and so on and so forth. You don't need anything more than this. Okay, so that's the roadmap level estimation. This is the end result that you want to get. Okay, so this is the goal. Remember that whenever you do estimation, you should always ask a question: what is the purpose of this estimation? Why we are doing this? And the purpose of the roadmap level estimation or product planning level is to create a roadmap, so that there is a clarity. This is how the product is going to evolve, right? Okay, so to achieve that, we use affinity estimation. Okay, so what happens in affinity estimation, that whatever you want this product to contain, like let's say Facebook integration, this integration, what all, maybe a little, you can put them on little stickies or index cards or whatever, and then you put them in one of these buckets. Is it a small thing, or it is a medium level thing, or it is a large thing? Now you may say, okay, what does that mean? So each team first defines what does it mean. What is the meaning of small? What is the meaning of large? What is the meaning of medium? Some may say, if this particular thing can be done within a week, it may be small. If this can be done within a couple of months, maybe 2 months, it's medium. If it takes more than 2 months, then it is large. Just I'm giving some example, but each team need to go and get the decider. Project manager or a Scrum Master may facilitate that. Most of the Scrum Masters may not be doing that. If you are doing it, wonderful. Okay, so you take your requirements. You have listed down all your requirements. You might have come from stakeholders or wherever. Then you put them in this category once you have decided. And this may be like, a kind of a gut feel, and that's okay. And the best way to do it, once I was told to estimate a project that had about 500-600 items in their backlog. It was a claims system that was implemented for insurance company. They went live, and then they had several items to be done which was not important for going live, so they put it in a backlog, and they had about 500-600 items. So the management were asking this team, okay, how much time will you take to finish all of this? They had a team in India, 15 people, and they had 10 people in US. So they wanted to know how much cost it is going to be. So the team, the project manager and the manager, they asked, they were asked us. So they went to the business analyst, and what these requirements are. Oh, for doing all these requirements take about 3 months. So they were not getting anywhere because they did not know this technique. Okay, so I said, okay, if you want to do that, then I can help you. We can get it done in 5 days. I need all the relevant people in room for 5 days, and we will get this done. Okay, and it was actually done in 4 days. So we started with this, and I will tell you the story as we go on. So we started with this. We listed down all the requirements on index cards, and we had 3 tables marked small, medium, large. So I had this bunch of the desk card put on a table. So there were 6 people there in the room. So I'll say, okay, pick a card and put it wherever you want to. So people by turn, they kept coming and they're putting wherever, whatever they thought. We decided similar thing, 1 week, 2 months, and more than 2 months. It took about 15 minutes for them to do it. And then I said, okay, everybody go on those 3 tables. And if you want to move an item from a table to the other table, go ahead and do it. So people started looking, they started moving, probably another 15 minutes, and they were all settled. So in 30 minutes, they all settled with about 500 index cards on this. It works very fast. It works very fast. So with that, what you can do now you have small, medium, low, you approximate this. Now you can take them and prioritize and say, okay, this is my first milestone of the roadmap. And in first, 3 months, I will do this. So, and you put all those there and prioritized. So because you don't know each one of them will become how much, but you prioritize. So if you have 10 items under interactive shopping agent, you have prioritized it. And each one of them, as per the Agile, they are independent, right? So you prioritize them. And then when the team does detailed planning and delivery, if out of 10, if they can do 5, you're still good, right? So this is what is the affinity estimation, putting them here in this fashion. So that's what helps you to do your roadmap level planning. Okay. Now moving to the release or sprint level planning. So under this sprint level planning, it's a little more precise. You remember the cone of uncertainty? So it is little more precise than affinity, and it is basically the goal is to the release goal and sprint goal work together to give better picture when future delivery can be expected. So basically it's going to the release level, and it says, okay, there are going to be 6 or 7 releases, and for each release, this is the estimates in terms of what you called as story point estimation. And what we let me I'm hurrying, seems like. Okay, so this chart you see is, you in release planning, what you need is how many releases are going to be there, what you are going to put in each release, and each release may coincide with the roadmap milestone, or maybe for a roadmap milestone there could be more than one release. So let's say there was a roadmap every quarter goal for the roadmap or milestone, you may have 3 releases. Okay, you may have 1 release, or you may have 2 releases, whatever. It just depends upon how do you plan. So for the first, let's say first roadmap milestone, we said, okay, we are going to be 3 releases, okay, or maybe 2 releases, whatever that is. So what is going to be in each release? And then for the first release, you also plan the sprints that we are going to have. Let's say if it is a monthly release, you may have 2 sprints, okay? But if you have 2 releases in a quarter, then maybe you'll have 3 sprints in each release. So on the release level, you plan how many releases, and then you do detailed planning for the first release. Detailed planning means how many sprints are going to be there and what will go in each sprint. When you finish towards the end of the first release, you will go and plan the second release, okay? But initial release planning will be how many releases, and in the first release, how many sprints are going to be there. So that's the release level planning, and this is what you want to achieve from release level estimation. Okay, so release level estimation is called as relative size, and it is a consensus based technique applied at the release level. Consensus based means everybody agrees, right? The affinity estimation, we did that, but in a very different way. We first had people come and sort it out, and then people moved it. So it became consensus based, but that may not start as consensus, but this is a consensus based from the very beginning. It is a size rather than a time. Okay, and it includes the three factors: effort, complexity, and risk, not just the effort. Okay, and it is measured in story points. Many of you are familiar with the story points, and you know they follow the altered Fibonacci sequence 1, 2, 3, 5, 8. So that's the Fibonacci sequence that they follow, and it is used to reflect that there is an inherent uncertainty when estimating larger items, because there is a bigger uncertainty. So whether you say 800 or you say 300, it doesn't matter. So that is why after 100 it is infinity. Okay, so that is what is reflected. And stories are compared to previously estimated used stories to obtain an estimate. So what happens in this in a nutshell? So you take your story and all the stories in your backlog and find out the smallest one, most simple, smallest, with no risks, right? We have three things: effort, complexity, and risk. So where the smallest effort, no complexity, or no risk. Okay, that's what you should look for in your backlog. Okay, or the least of this. So that becomes your one story point. Okay, now one story point doesn't mean 1 hour or 1 day or 1 week. It doesn't matter. For some team it could be an hour, for some team it could be a day, for some team it could be a week. So it doesn't matter. Okay, but that's your smallest story. That becomes one. Now you go on the top of your backlog and start estimating. Now your top backlog, see, compared to this smaller story, which was one story point, how big is this? Is it 2 times? It is 3 times? It is 5 times? It is 8 times or 13 times, 20, 40, whatever that is. So, and then you apply consensus. If there are 5 people, they may use this planning poker cards, and they may come up in a, they may try once. If there is no consensus, they try second time, third time, and so they generate consensus. Then only it moves forward. And many of you know the story pointing, and many of you know the planning poker. There may be a whole separate session on just story pointing. I don't want to spend too much time on that. But the idea is that story pointing, you're using story points to do relative sizing, and still it is not hours or days. Okay, so most of the time, if you want to relate to it, because we are all project managers and we come from that background, it is difficult to have this concept in mind or this mindset. So I will simplify that for you. Okay, so think about complexity, risk, and then you can say, okay, my one story point is approximately if I can finish it within 2 days. I'm just giving an example. You can use other. So if I can finish it in 2 days, start to finish everything, then I'll say up to 2 days, not 2 days. I can finish it in 2 hours. I can finish in half day. I can finish in 1.5 days. Everything is one story point. Okay, up to 2 days, one story point. Okay, and then you can extrapolate. You can have the sizing done in the similar way. So if something with 2 story point, it may take from 2 to 4 days. If it is 3 story point, it may take 5 to 6 days. If it is 5, it may take 6 to 10 days, right? Something like that. That analogy, if you start with that, that's okay. That's absolutely all right. But what it does when you say one story point is up to 2 days, it is actually taking care of complexity and risk into it, because you are not saying 2 days, right? You're saying up to 2 days. So it takes care of those 2 factors also. And now you're giving it a range, not a number. And then your stories are relatively sized. I think if you start with that, that will be great. Okay, all right. So that's a relative size or story pointing. And then you come to the sprint level or iteration level when you're ready to start. Okay, at that level, sprint level is the lowest level, right? And during the sprint planning, estimates are determined by team for each story in the sprint backlog. So you already have the story point done. Okay, you may want to review that, and you may want to further break the stories into tasks. And why most of the people do that, there is a reason for that. Ideally, if a team is mature and you follow the kind of principle behind Agile, that one, the team is a multi-talented team with multiple skills. So every team member can take a story and finish it end to end, make it production ready. Okay, so they can do, if there is any requirement detailing need to be done, if the development need to happen, if the QA testing need to happen, if UAT kind of a thing need to happen, whatever, they can do everything. May not be UAT, I just said UAT, but all the testing. Okay, so make it production ready, and then you do the UAT testing and you can finish it. So if a person can do requirements, if a person can do design, if a person can do development, if a person can do testing, everything, right? Then you don't need to divide a story into tasks, because the same person is doing. So if I'm doing, I don't have to get into breaking it into tasks and trying to track that. I don't have to do it. But in reality, this doesn't happen. In reality, different people will work on different pieces of user story, like these kind of activities. So you divide them into tasks, and then you estimate tasks. And now the tasks are a absolute estimate, like you are used to, right? It's called as ideal time. That's what task is estimated. Ideal time, how long task would take if there were no interruption. That is called as ideal time. But usually there are interruptions, right? So you don't have 100% focused. There are interruptions. So you take that into accounting while you are estimating the task, right? So you need to account for interruptions and learning curve, and using what's called as focus factor. So focus factor is how much focus a person can have, right? Will he have 100% focus? Then the task estimate is same as the ideal time, but usually it is not. So it will be different. Okay, the task estimate may be more than the ideal time. Calculate planned velocity. So based on that, you calculate planned velocity, the number of story points the team will deliver at the end of the sprint, keeping the available capacity in mind. So when you talk about capacity, how do you calculate capacity? This is another challenge that the team faces, or the project manager face, or Scrum Masters face. How do you calculate capacity for next 2 weeks? You have to take into account each and everything that happens. Many times things are missed. And I was called in for a engagement where a team was implemented Agile. They were doing 4-week sprints, but they will miss stories in every sprint. Whatever they say, they were not able to finish that. So if they were not able to finish that, then what happens? Guess what? They have to roll it to the next one, and that was not just the issue, that they will work with their salespeople, and salespeople will go and make a commitment to the customer, and they will say, okay, in next month you will get that, month after that you will get that, and so on and so forth. But then they were not able to keep up the commitment because of the issue. And the problem was found that they will not get into this detail level. They were just doing the story points and taking those story points, matching how many people we are, and go ahead and do that. But guess what? The effort needed or the type of skill needed for a set of stories may not be in the same proportion as your people skills are. So you need to match that. You may not be able to do everything. So in that case, this kind of a spreadsheet is very useful, and I developed it long back, and you can find it on my website, the knowledge base, and you can download. Okay. All right. So how do we tie all these things together? I talked to you about 3 levels of estimate, and by now you may think this is all confusing. Okay. So even if I try to make it very clear, but let's see how you tie up all these things together, so you can see the whole picture in the mind. So this is a very simple application. This is an email kind of a application like Outlook you have, or Gmail, or whatever, right? So if you were to do a planning for that, so this goes into product and release planning, and then your sprint planning is after that. So what you do is you identify the feature, the epics, big, or maybe you can say features. We can say these epics, or other way, doesn't matter. So start with one of these. Okay, so organize email. So we can call it organize email as a feature, manage email, manage calendar, manage contacts. Okay, those are the 4 key features of this. And then these are the epics. So to organize email, you need to know search and 5. And then for manage, you have these 3. For manage calendar, you have these 4. And then for manage contact, you have these 3. Okay. So at this level, you are doing product planning. This blue level. What can you finish in which? So how the product roadmap looks like. What I am going to get in this product. Okay. So basically, if you see here, if you release 1 is same as your milestone, first milestone, then you are getting almost every functionality, but not the entire of it, not the total of it, right? Because if you see search email, these are these stories. These are epic. Under this epic, there are stories here. Then under this, there are stories. Under this, there are stories. So if your release 1 coincides with your milestone, then this is what you will get. So you will get search email, you will get file email, you will get compose email. So you are getting all of this other than delete contact. This is what you are not getting, right? But you are getting to a minimum level, right? That is how agile development is. It is iterative and incremental. So what this will allow a user to do, they'll be able to search, right, with a keyword. They will be able to file emails. They will be able to compose emails. Of course, it is send basic emails, send RTI, and they'll be able to read emails. They'll be able to delete, and you can go ahead and see that. Now, once this is done, then this is a next level of increment. Okay, and then this is next level of increment. Now, from this is product level planning or affinity estimation. Now, when you go down to this is a release planning, and you need user stories, user story points. So for each one of them, you need to know story points, because you know then whether you will be able to fit in this release. If it is a 3-month release, there are going to be 6 sprints, whether you'll be able to fit or not. Okay. So that is why it is important to do the story points. And as you know, as I was telling, story points are not absolute estimate. So there is a leeway there. There's a little slack there. So if I'm saying 1 story point, I will take the same example again. If I'm saying 1 story point, it means it could be anything up to 2. Now, there could be some stories that can be finished in half day. There could be some stories that could be finished in 2 days. There could be some in 1 day. There will be some that will take, and there may be some that may take 2.5 or 3 days, because you're not doing absolute estimate, and your estimate have some uncertainty, but still it is a 1 story point. Okay. So so that gives you a little flexibility in the planning, and that is what is to your advantage. So you don't say, okay, this is the effort. You say, this is how many story points we are going to deliver, and they are coming from these stories. And towards the end of this, you go and do detailed planning for this, and then detailed planning for this. But your release planning, after release planning, this is the kind of chart that I'm looking for. You have a very clear idea about all the releases and what goes in each release. And then for first release, you do your sprint planning also. Not sprint planning, sorry. First release, you go and decide how many sprints and what goes in each sprint. So at the end of each sprint, you might have complete the stories. They are all independent, but it may not be functional from a user perspective, right? So you have to wait for the whole release to be ready so that it can be given to the users. Okay, so I hope this helps to tie everything together. And then the next level will be, of course, the sprint level planning, the absolute task level, which I have not mentioned here. So this level is product level, this is release level, and then the next is your sprint level or task level. And you use it at different time as the things unfold. You don't have to do everything upfront. All right, so let's move on, and I will take questions at the end. So now let's go to Menti again. So let's say in last 30-40 minutes that I've been talking about, what is something that you learned today that you can use right away? Something that you can go to work tomorrow and you can use it. Roadmap, excellent, very good, very good. Roadmap. What else? Roadmap planning, very good, very good, excellent, excellent. Roadmap planning, very good, very good. Yeah, and that I have seen. Others can keep writing here. Other can keep telling about this. Affinity estimation, which is roadmap planning. This is not done by Scrum Masters mostly. If you are one of the Scrum Masters who are doing it, wonderful. But that's where the project managers come into play, and they start with this part, because you will need to create a project charter, right? You need to do that as a project manager. You need to create the project charter, how you will put your more milestones, what goes in each milestone. This is what you do. Without that, you cannot do it. If you start doing your story point, it may take longer, because that's a release level planning. It may not be a charter level planning, if you will. Okay, so that is why it's important to so roadmap planning, excellent, very good. I'm very happy to see that story pointing. Okay, very good. Somebody learned story pointing, which is very good, excellent. Okay, let's move on. So now we are at a point where we are going to do a small quiz. Okay, so let me go back here, and so let everybody join. We have about 87 people. Let's see how many want to participate. So I have 9, 10, 11, 12. This will be very interesting, and I will say all of you can participate. All of you can participate. It is going to be fun. It's going to be more fun in participating than sitting and watching. Okay, and you have a chance to win a prize. So it will be more fun to join the quiz. Maybe another 30 seconds. I will give another 30 seconds. So I have 25 people. That's great. That's wonderful. Okay, people are still joining. Some are thinking. Okay. Okay, so as you join, here the quiz runs. There'll be 5 questions. I think there are 5 questions that are going to come one after the other, and you will have 10-15 seconds to answer that question. So you answer the question. So the scoring is done based on 2 things. The answer has to be right, If answer is not right, you get 0. So answer has to be right, and faster you respond, more points you get. So fast right answers get the most points. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to start the quiz. So you get the question here. Yes, you get about 15 seconds. That should be good enough. Okay, so most of you are right. And let's see scoring here. It will bring top 10 or something like that. Okay, very good. So Katia is leading. Ellie can come and take the lead. Let's see what happens here. Now we are on the second question. You should know this, right? We talked about this many times. Very good. Very good. Oh, wow. A lot of you, most of you, almost every one of you were right. Okay, let's see. Oh, wow, there's a tie between Katia and Ellie. There's some changes happening below. All right. Let's go to the next one here. Okay, relative sizing, yeah, release. You're right. Okay, many of you are right. Okay. Wow, Katia is doing really great. Okay, let's see if somebody can upset this. Okay, wow, most of you are right. All right, so let's see if there is any. Oh, wow. Good competition there. Good competition there. Okay, so this is the last one. Let's see if somebody comes from well below, and I have seen that happen multiple times. So this is the last question here. Oh, wow, this was some distributed. Okay. All right. Let's see if this upsets anything. Sometime it does. Okay, so Katia is the winner. So Katia, if you can take the screenshot of this screen and email this to me. I have put my email address in the chat, and I'm going to share it at the end too. And I will send you one of the prices that I have here. Here are the prices, so you get one of these. So I will send you the details how to claim your price. So you can look at these and send me your screenshot, so I know your email address, and I'll send you the way to cash your price. Okay, all right. So in conclusion, there are 3 levels of estimation in Agile. So you don't have to start with the story point. Just remember that each has a clear purpose. So roadmap level is a affinity estimation technique and get the roadmap. The relative sizing is story point estimates to get the release plan. And then the task level or ideal time is to get the sprint plan, to get a good sprint plan. Understanding the level of uncertainty each level. At the roadmap level, there is a highest level of uncertainty. At the release level, there is a little less, and at the task level is the least. So remember that cone of uncertainty, right? So when you get down to the task, the uncertainty is very little. Okay, so I'm leaving 20 minutes or so for the questions. If you have any questions, I don't know how you're going to do it in the okay. I see some questions here.
Yeah, I can help you. First, Narendra, thank you so much. It was so much fun to be part of the event today. Thank you. There is something like a comment from Anita Kavarkova. From what I understood, roadmap estimation planning can be seen as project deliverable plan. So.
Yep. Yes. Yeah, I think that is right. That is right. It can be seen as that, and mostly I think it may be a good fit for the charter, because whether agile project or a non-agile project, it doesn't matter. You have to create a project charter, and in the project charter, you may have to provide the milestones. And this is a very good way of providing that milestone. So roadmap is actually your milestone plan. Yes.
Yes, there is another question from Bojani Liev. How do you translate the releases into actual dates? Release 1, March 10th. Release 2, August 15th. That's
okay. So you don't do that in Agile. This is a waterfall. Okay. So you don't do this in Agile. In Agile, you start with that roadmap. I was showing you every 3 months, there is a milestone. Okay. You will need to achieve that milestone. Now, there is a basic fundamental difference between waterfall and Agile planning. So in waterfall, you have scope fixed, right? Your scope is fixed because you said, okay, here's the scope of the project. And as the question asked to project manager is, okay, here is the scope of the work. How much time and effort it will take, time and cost, right? Triangle, you've seen that. So your scope is fixed, and then you have to determine your time and cost based on that. So from that perspective, you can say, okay, this is my schedule time, and I'm dividing my time into milestones. First milestone is 10th March, second milestone is 15th August, and that is based on all the planning that you have done, all the detail level planning you have done. Now, in case of Agile, think of that as an inverted triangle, just opposite, where your cost and time are fixed, but the scope is variable. Okay, scope is variable. So when I was showing you this roadmap, let's see if I can go back, and that may be helpful. So if I can go back and take to that roadmap slide, and also the other slide here, roadmap. Yeah, this slide. So let's say if I'm saying, so you can say that these are the milestone are fixed, Q1, Q2, Q3, Q4, right? They are fixed. So what could change is the scope. So for example, interactive shopping assistant. Okay. Now, integrated shopping assistant may have 3 key things, and they are prioritized. And when you go down to the release and sprint level, they will further think about this as a backlog for this milestone, right? So this will be prioritized, broken into smaller pieces, and then stories, and then tasks, and all those kind of things happen. So what we are saying is that we will deliver at end of Q1 an interactive shopping assistant. what are the features and the functionalities it will have. It will have these three, but the details of that we are not telling at this level, because what's going to happen, I will take you to the other chart. So for example, this one. So release 1, we are telling we are going to do this. So we are going to provide you this. But then within this, you may have some more details. You may or may not do those, right? So it depends upon what you can fit in that time box. So what you can fit in that time box, let's say there are, I don't know, there may be like 20 of these here. Okay. So you prioritize them and then start working from the top. And if you did 18, that's okay. If you did 15, that's okay. If you finished all of them and picked a couple from there, that's also okay, right? So what we are saying, our scope is variable, and this is something that you need to understand. When you do agile planning, you are not coming up with the dates. Your dates are fixed. You are coming up with what you are going to deliver by that date, and that's the scope flexibility. So it's very important to understand. So Boyan, what you have put is still waterfall mindset. That has to change. You start thinking in an agile way, not waterfall way. All right. Okay. Do you have any tips for defining initial team velocity when you have no previous data? Yes. Yes. So you don't have any previous data. That's right. So what you do? So let's say this is your first sprint. You don't have previous data. So you can talk to the team, and you have your story points for each of the stories. Now you're trying to figure out how much we can do in this sprint, and that will constitute your velocity, number of story points delivered. Okay. So what you do is you talk to the team, okay, and maybe if they are not very comfortable at remaining at the story level, you can break into tasks and then have your capacity plan done, who is available for how much and all that. And based on the task estimate and based on your capacity planning, you can come back and say, okay, how many stories we can finish, and this will be your estimate, right? This will be your estimate. So you can do that, and maybe it comes, I'm just picking up a number, 30 story points. Okay, that's what you have. And then as every day you do your stand up, look at your burn down chart, see how we are doing, and then you can learn from that, but you don't change the scope of the sprint, because that's the place where scope is fixed. But when you go to the next sprint, you can change it. Okay, so you can see how you perform. Let's say you planned 30 story points. At the end of the sprint, you delivered 25 or 35, who knows, whatever you delivered. Go to the retrospective and see what happened, what went well, what did not go well, and things like that, and based on that, then in the next sprint you can adjust, and then just keep doing it at the end of each sprint, and you should be fine. All right. So that is how you start. You start with whatever you know and whatever best you can do, and then improve with each sprint. All right.
Thank you. There is a question from Ekaterina Dimitrova. Should we target to cover stories from as many epics as possible in each release, or we could close tasks epic by epic?
Yeah, can you ask that question again?
Should we target to cover stories from as many epics as possible in each release, or we could close tasks epic by epic?
Okay, very good. So what you do is, let's say you have a release, and there are several epics and stories and all that. So you have prioritized them. and then you have, let's say in this case, you have 6 sprints. Okay, so you don't have to go and detail out stories or epics for all 6 sprints. Okay, you don't. uh, what you do is, at any point of time, you should have detailed out or we call it groomed stories worth next 2 sprints. Every time you should be ready with that. So when you start your first sprint, before that, you should groom stories worth 2 sprints. Okay, you don't have to do any more than that. And then you start your sprint. Okay, and as you are doing that sprint, those 2 weeks, you pick more stories from the backlog for your third sprint and start grooming those. So you don't have to do everything upfront. You do as you go. So at any point of time, the best practice is that you should have stories ready to go for at least 2 sprints. So if your first sprint velocity is 30, then probably 60 story points worth of stories ready before you start your first sprint, and then you adjust, as it goes, because you're a learning team. You are a continuously improving learning team. So you do that. So no, you don't have to do all. You do as you go. So more, my question was more, do we select stories from search email, file email in release 1, or we could do all tasks in search email epic in, oh, okay, no, you are not. See, in the search, this is what is only thing you are doing in first release. Then limit search to one field, limit search to 1 plus, you are doing the second. No, you don't have to do all of the search in one, because then at the end of release 1, they can only search, right? Which is not the objective of Agile, because when you are giving a release to the customer, that should be meaningful. Okay, they should be able to use it. They may have limited use, but they should be able to use it. So like here, you have search going in different. So search epic, you have this story here, this story is here, these stories here. You don't have to do all of them in one release. Was that the question? Okay, they will respond. Okay, yeah, okay, yes, okay, very good. Okay, all right.
There,
Any other
yeah, there is a question from Simona Teneva. As a project manager, how do you manage a situation where you are constantly behind deadlines because people on the team are working on multiple projects at the same time?
Yeah, this is a problem. Yeah, and actually, Agile is challenging when you don't have dedicated time, actually dedicated team. It's much more challenging and may create more problems rather than solving the problems. And many organizations, they think that by using Agile and they will become efficient, but there are certain necessary conditions to be successful in Agile. And one is that your team is stable and fully dedicated, because if people work on multiple projects, the priorities may change across the projects and their commitment will also change. Now, what you can do as a project manager is get a commitment not from each team member during the planning for that 2 weeks. You don't have to take commitment for the whole project. Okay, you take commitment from them, whosoever is your part-time resources, from them, that will you be able to, don't take commitment in terms of time. Okay, take commitment in terms of will you be finishing this? Do you commit to finish this? Because this is what planning we are doing, and we know you are only 40% assigned here. And if they do not commit, then don't include that in your sprint goal. So what you can do is, and this is another very good real thing that I have found to be useful, you may find it in many places, is your sprint goal is divided into two parts, committed goal and stretch goal. So committed is where every team member commits that no matter what happens, we will do it, right? And then stretch is, if we get to it, we will do it. We will try. If we don't get interrupted from other places, we will do it. But if we get interrupted, we may not be able to do it. So this is a committed goal and a stretch goal. So an idea should be to have more in the committed goal. You may start with 50-50, for example, 50% in the committed and 50% in stretch, but slowly increase that committed to 70-80%. I think if you can reach to 80%, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Start with 50, reach to 80, you are great. You have done your job as an excellent project manager. And if you did that, I think you can solve this problem for your team. Still, the problem will exist across the organization because that need a more radical change of creating fully dedicated teams. And then they will see how Agile is so beneficial. But that may not be in your control as a project manager, right? But what you have a lot of things in your control, like what I'm talking about is totally in your control. Okay, and you can practice it, and I'll see you will find it to be very useful, and slowly you will see people are more and more committing. So don't ask that, will you spend 40% means 16 hours on this project? No, don't even talk about that. Talk about commitment in terms of what they will deliver. Make sense? I don't know, you are not on this chat, but hopefully I clarified your question. Okay, all right. Is there any other question we have?
So far, not. Maybe they will come in a while. So let me check once again the chat. Okay. Yeah, we answered all the questions in the chat. But yeah, please, you can also unmute yourself and ask your questions there.
Yeah. Feel free to do that.
Unmute your conversation.
Yeah. You can do that. You can unmute yourself and do that. Now that this is a time when
there is a question.
I'm not doing the presentation.
Yeah. There is a question from Boriana Borisova. If the team commits to a sprint scope goal, but during the sprint it becomes obvious that the work will be completed for half of the estimated time, should we pull another user story or close the sprint earlier?
Okay, so one fundamental thing, the sprint is a time box thing. It doesn't expand or contract. 2 weeks means 2 weeks. Okay, so if it starts on Monday morning, it finishes in following Friday evening. That's it. Okay, now you have a situation that you may not be able to complete the things. If you could not complete, you could not complete. You don't extend it by another day or two. And other situation, what you're talking about, you could do more. You finished in half the time. Great. Since you already groomed stories worth 2 sprints, and that's why I was telling you, the best practice is to groom stories worth 2 sprints. You already groomed. When you started 2 weeks, you already passed 1 week. You might have groomed for 1 more sprint. Okay, so take from the backlog and keep moving. Whatever you can do, that's wonderful. But 2 weeks doesn't shrink. 2 weeks stays 2 weeks. How to explain Agile to a CFO when cost and time are not? No, so first of all, cost and time are very much definable. So that is what is fixed. So it's a very good situation for management or stakeholders. I will explain you how. So in Agile world, the time and cost are fixed. Let's say you are developing this email system. right? So you'll say, okay, we will develop this email system. And the way stakeholder come to you is very different. They don't come to you and say that, okay, here is the scope of this, tell us how much time and how much time it will take and what it will cost. It is other way around. So if they have agile mindset, or you coach them to have agile mindset, is okay, I have $500,000 and 6 months, and I would like to develop this system. Okay, that is how it is approached. I would like to get this system developed, so my users start using a new email system that we will develop. I have 6 months and $500,000. Okay, that's fine. So $500,000 in 6 months, about maybe whatever team you can put together in $500,000 for 6 months. Let's say it comes 10 team members. Okay, you can get 10 team members in that $500,000 for 6 months. Okay, so you have your team here, and you have that is the cost, right? And time is 6 months. Now you do this planning, right? What I'm showing you here, and you prioritize. Let's say there are total 50 items here. Okay, so you prioritize 50 items, and you start working in your releases and all those kind of things. Smaller releases are better. So you start giving it to the users, and they start using it. Now, invariably, changes will happen. So a change comes, you evaluate the change, and then with the help of the product owner, prioritize the new change. Let's say you already finished 10 stories, the remaining are 40, and then this comes, maybe it goes on the top of the backlog, somewhere in between or at the bottom, wherever, right? You put that. So, and you keep doing it, you keep delivering. Okay, now at the end of 6 months, let's say you 10 got more added, so it's 60. Okay, and the team delivered 48. They did not do even 50, or maybe 40. Okay, the team did 40, but guess what? Those 40 are the most important, valuable requirements that got delivered. Remaining 10 out of original 50 might be bells and whistles, very little value. And if they were not delivered, that's fine. If the 60, if you added 10 more, out of 10 maybe there were 5 that were very important, so they got delivered, but remaining 20 did not get delivered. Now let's talk to the CFO, and let's talk to those folks. You got the system, it's working. These are the 20 that we did not do, or we could not do. What do you want to do? And you may look at that features, functions, or 20 low value. So now the CFO or the stakeholders say, we don't need it. We don't have to spend time. We don't have to take this team for 2 more months, spend another $100,000. We can take this money and invest somewhere else. See the power of this. So, but if it was waterfall, what will happen at the end of 6 months? You'll say, okay, this project will get extended by another 2 months, and the cost is now $600,000, and the time is now 8 months. That is what will happen in waterfall. But in Agile, 6 months are over, $500 million spent, you got 40 things, and you did not get 40 things at the end of 6 months, but you started getting them even sooner. People are using it. Another thing, how much control a stakeholder and CFO can have. They can come back to you at the end of 4th month. If you are doing monthly releases, come back at the end of 4th month and look at this. You might have done 35, and they say, we don't need the rest. We can stop this. Or many times what happens, if your company is executing 15, 20, 30, 50 projects, the priorities change. So let's the team spend 4 months on this, and the priority change, the team has to move and do something else. If it was waterfall, all this investment goes out of the door because nothing is in production, right? But in this case, in 4 months, you would have put 20, 30, 35, 40 stories in production. People are using it. So all that investment that was put is still used. and you have flexibility to terminate the project sooner. So this is actually very good for the CFO and the C-level and the stakeholders. Somebody need to explain them very well. Somebody need to change their thinking to be agile thinking, not waterfall thinking. And I think this is where we lack. So as a project manager, program manager, PMO director, you should be able to explain it in such a manner that it makes sense to the C-level. And they will be very happy with you not worrying about what will get delivered. Oh yeah, you know, we'll get something meaningful, right? Okay. All right, Gregor. How do you guide the client on what budget to allocate when they have deadline and request? Okay, very good. So deadline is there. Deadlines will always be there. Okay, agile or no agile, there will always be deadlines. So now deadlines means your time is fixed, correct? What you need to do is quickly do product planning, affinity estimation, right? Quickly do that. That can happen. I have done product planning for very large projects. It will not take more than 2 days to finish that. Okay, so start from there. Based on that, you will get a very high level idea of what can be done within that deadline, right? High level idea, what can be done. So these blue stickies here, so you can take that and say, okay, we will be able to finish this. This is the order, and we will be delivering this, and assume some team size. Okay, 5, 10, 6, whatever. Assume that. Assuming this much cost, we can deliver this. Now he'll come back and say, okay, I can give you more money. Okay, if you give me more money, I can do this much more. Okay, so that is how this conversation need to take place, and you need not even release planning. That's where this 3 level of estimation is very helpful, to have a dialogue with the stakeholders and C-level people. All right, I think that was a very good question. Any other question? I think we are at the time, right?
Yes. Yeah, we don't have questions, and we are exactly at 8. Narendra, this was really very, very intense session. I'm so glad that you were able to share with us your vast experience and wisdom. I believe our community got equipped and weaponized with more knowledge. Thank you so much. And they have now one more person to talk to. So please reach out to Narendra. As you see, he is really very, very helpful, very knowledgeable. And I believe the discussions won't stop today. So you can continue the discussion offline. And I believe our community here in Bulgaria and wherever you are will continue to benefit from Narendra's experience. Thank you so much, Narendra. I'm very happy to, for you, for us that we had you as our guest. I will share the presentation with our community, the video with the community too, and with you. This is everything for today. Thank you so much for being with us, for staying also beyond the time. I will stop recording now.